to see young people get a few years on them, people that have been involved in ministry for years when I was a college pastor, and to see them take part in ministry together, it's just amazing to me. It's so fulfilling. Will God call other young men and young women sitting here tonight into his full-time service? Will God do that? I can say yes, God will do it. God's a great God. I can recall in a former ministry, praying, just asking God, I don't know where I got the number, but just asking God that he would lay on 40 young people's hearts the conviction and the burden and the joy and the responsibility of accepting a call into ministry. When we receive Christ and receive the Holy Spirit that comes along at that same moment, we are then transformed. Paul talks about being transformed. We're transformed from what we were to what we're going to be. You don't really see how it's going to work in my life because I'm not to that point yet. But if you had seen me for a long period of time, you would have already seen a transformation that has begun, so that you would say, well, is that Paul Steen? I don't remember Paul Steen looking like that. And I would say the same thing about you young people and about Chris and others that are going to be involved in ministry here, that you didn't used to look like that. You didn't used to talk like that. But I would say I didn't either. But God's not done with me. And what I'm going to be in another 10 or 20 years, who knows? And what I'll look like and what I'll be like, I don't know. And I would say the same thing about that for you young people. If you'll just trust God, let God work in your life. Respond to his call. He's calling. Are you responding? And Chris asked me to respond to the charge that he's given, and I would just say with eagerness and with a willing spirit, to quote right out of 2 Peter, with eagerness and with a willing spirit, I accept that. I accept it. I told Pastor Benny earlier tonight that if God can use a donkey, God can use a guy like me. And, it's not that there's anything special about somebody that's called into ministry. I don't think there's anything special. But I'll tell you what is special that might separate you where you are tonight from you where you might be years from now or even a year from now. And that is not just being willing and eager, because I think especially if you're young in years, you would say, oh, I am willing, I am eager. But it's the decision, folks, friends, to be obedient to God, so that when God calls, you respond. When God says, I'm going to move my pawns around, and Mike's here, and Mike, I'm just the next pawn. You understand? So Mike had to be moved, and then Paul had to be moved, and somebody had to follow that, and all God is doing is moving his pawns around. And if I think about it like that, that puts my life and my importance in perspective. I'm not important. But I'm willing, I'm eager, and I'm obedient. And if God calls me, God will hear within me, deep within me, the answer, yes, I will go. And I'm telling you, I think that's the only difference between me and someone else who's not in full-time ministry. Now, I can't be in full-time ministry here either. I'm going to be in ministry as much as I can be, because, just the reality of the budget and things like that. We just can't do that. But we're called into ministry. We're going to work together. We're going to do things together. So when Chris says, I'm charge you, Paul, I say, Chris, church, I accept. I accept. I am willing, I'm eager to be obedient to God. And my sense is, God has moved his pawn, me, here. And because of that, if someone were to say, well, what's Paul going to be like? What does Paul want to do here? I'll tell you what I want to do. I want to be sensitive to the leading of the Holy Spirit. I want God to control me, but also you. So that together, all of us together, can start moving in consort, moving together towards people that are not here, towards lost people, hurting people, people that have been hurt by the church, maybe even hurt by this church, but certainly hurt by the church, people that don't know Christ. People that are lost, they're hurting. People that are de-churched, I can't tell you how many there are right here in this town. So many people have been de-churched. But we want to come together. We want to bring people back together. We want us to join together so that we would respond together. Not just me responding, but all of us together saying, you know what? I'm willing, I'm eager, and I promise God I will be obedient. Why doesn't God call others? Why does he call some? I think he knows your life. He knows your response. He knows when you will say yes, and he knows when you will say no. And I think if we together would say yes to God, then we together, this church together, can move forward to the point that we become once again influential in this town. And with that, I say again, just humbly, thank you. It's an unbelievable